to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. We're having technical difficulties that rival the rival the Lions of Minnesota today. My name is Demetrius. I appreciate you listening, checking us out. Shout out as always to the super producer extraordinaire Mike Ward. We are trying some different things, so if we have some glitches, excuse us. We're trying a little background work, little different thing with the stream, and we're obviously having some level of difficulty. It looks like we got a little bit of a delay, but we're just going to go ahead and punch through today. And the performance of the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast today might be very similar to that of our Gridiron Heroes. And we'll go back and take a look at it. Mike and I will figure it out. And much like we expect the Lions to play better next week against Seattle, we hope that the podcast will be better next week as we work these things out. But so I'm gonna jump right in. There's an idea behind this thing where you want some kind of format, right? As I started to do this and wanted to do this podcast, I started to look for tips, and I'm not a broadcaster, I'm not a journalist. I say that all the time. I started to look for tips and clues. So you get a master class in podcasting, right? To help you learn tricks and tips, and what we're trying to do with the background thing today and the green screen. We'll figure it out. I might just go back to what we were doing before. How you format a podcast appears to be critical, right? Because I can get on here and just jabber, and I've had guys on Twitter like get to the point, right? And that's not who I am. I'm not a get to the point guy. I'm a jump down a rabbit hole guy. But what they always say, every one of these things I've looked into and tried to figure out how to do, they say, have some idea of what that particular podcast is going to be about and tell your audience. One, if they want to stick around, you need to give them a reason, right? So if I say to you today, hey, I'm just going to hit 3 quick points, this might be shorter, you know how much time you have. Maybe you'll listen. If I say, hey, I'm going to talk about Matthew Stafford for no reason, you probably won't listen. Or you might say, what the hell is he going to say about Stafford? I'll take a look. But the idea is right at the top, after I acknowledge my super producer, after I give you a clear feeling that I'm disgusted about today's game, I'm supposed to give you an idea of what the next 30, 40 minutes are going to be like, right? So in general, I will take a little time between the end of the game and the podcast to I might get stats. I might put my thoughts together and come up. I didn't really feel like doing that today. So today is what we're going to call freestyle. I don't even know. There's so much there. And the real idea behind this podcast from day one was after the Lions played, prior to 4 years ago, when I wasn't doing this podcast. And not just me, probably every Lions fan, football fans in general. You go through a time period after the game, whether you win, lose, or tie, ugly win, close win, bad loss, doesn't matter. There's a process where you decompress, right? Cathartic feels like the right word. You process the game, right? And I'm very analytical. So that for me is a task, because I will. So then the super producer, the guy responsible for the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast's existence, was a work colleague. And we were just at work one day. And I did this. I processed the game in his presence. And he was the one who said, hey, that's a podcast. That you should do a podcast. So that's how we got here. So today I'm just freestyling and there's no format. So apologies if you're not into that. I'm going to bounce around, but I'm going to jump right in and say first, I have often quoted a movie line. It's from one of the Bad Boy movies with Martin Lawrence and He Who Shall Not Be Named. Yes, I'm still pissed off about the Oscars, but that guy, Martin's character did something weird or goofy, and they would always go back and forth about that character. And he would say, "Look, you every now and then you do this nonsense, this craziness. It's usually just some bullshit." And he was like, "I don't do that, whatever." Later in the movie, he does one of these things, and he looks at him. He says, "See, that's that bullshit right there." I feel like I want to say that to the Lions today. See, that's why we can't have nice stuff. That's why, because all those people, and they're out there, they're there, they're waiting. It's their Christmas. Because today, as hard as you worked with Hard Knocks and all the things you do to try and change the narrative, to try and change the view, the national perception of the Lions, whether it's fans, media, whoever it is, today, that's that bullshit right there. That's why. That's why people talk about the Lions the way they talk about the Lions. That's why people think about the Lions the way they think about the Lions. It's that. A game where you're on the road in the division, you've got a chance to change that narrative. You've got a chance to fix it, start to fix it, because one game doesn't do anything, right? You start to fix it. You go on the road in the division. You were the better team today. I don't care what dumbass Dan puts on our Twitter page right now. Mike can read them or not. I don't really care. I watched the game. You beat yourself. Now, I will say that you guys are sure as shit a unit because everybody contributed. Players, coaches, everybody. But this is the game. This is where the guy who says SOL is having a party right now. He just impromptu scheduled a dinner party tonight to get all of his SOL buddies over to the house so they can watch a replay of the game and talk about how the Lions just went all Lions on everybody. And that's what it is. And that's what it is. And this just eliminates the Commanders win. It's like building a house with these bricks, right? And you put a brick on and you put a brick on, and then one day you just come through with a sledgehammer. The problem is the sledgehammer disintegrates about 20 bricks, and now you got to rebuild all those. It's bad. It was a bad loss. It bothers me. And yeah, I don't have a problem saying it hurts because I'm a fan. I'm invested. This is my team. And there's other people. There's other people out there, and it does hurt. And then you got those jackasses who are doing the I told you so stuff, and they're going to call in to their favorite guy on the radio tomorrow and tell him, oh, we knew it, and why do you do that? Whatever. But they'll be back on their couch 1 o'clock next Sunday watching the Seahawks game. But honestly, this was SOL. And it's tough for me to bash that guy or bash the concept of SOL, which I nobody hates SOL more than me. But then you watch this and you look at Martin Lawrence and you say, that's that bullshit right there. That's it. That's it. Why? Right. They're out in full force and they're pulling out all the classics. SOL, Ford sell the team. Hey, there's nothing I could say. I want to say something. I want to challenge them. I want to give them. I can't because that's that bullshit right there. This one sucks. This one hurt. This one really did. And there's not enough cornbread in the world for it. So if I had to try and format this thing, which I'm kind of still pissed if you can't tell, but I'm trying to be disciplined. So let's do a general look at the game. And there was a couple of good things we can talk about that. But ultimately, I'm trying to figure out how do we change the narrative? The easy answer is win. Turn the clock back 2 hours, do about 5 things differently, and win this game. Because next week, you're going to be favorite likely. That's not going to matter. That's not going to change the narrative. You better win next week. You better win at home against a team you're better than. And you'll probably be favored. But all of the things that make up SOL still exist. Beating yourself, penalties, coaching decisions. It's okay. All right. Overview. What do you say? I will say this. Everybody made their contribution. I don't think it was one play in the fourth quarter, one mistake, one thing. I could make a case they lost the game in the second quarter. And in fact, the way I watched the game, they did. Up 14-0. Dan Campbell went all Dan Campbell, fourth down guy. Dude, you don't have to go for every one of them. And he gets duped because they got 3 of them in a row. And I'm not going to go back and go, well, the fourth one they didn't get. Statistically, he did 75%. That's not it. That's not it. It is a thing where you can't just start playing Madden in the middle of an NFL game. You've got to be smart. You will get up on a podium and say you trust your defense. And your defense was playing well at that point. You know, I don't know. Your kicker had missed a field goal. You can't do that. I can make a case in the third quarter or no, early fourth, 10 minutes or so left in the game, up 10 points, 24-14. You had a third down and you threw the ball when you were running well. That's on Ben Johnson. I guess that's on Ben Johnson. He's calling the plays, right? I could make a case that Amani Oruwariye lost you the game multiple times. He contributed to one drive on his own. I could make a case for the timeout with 50 seconds, although they got the ball back and maybe that was good. I don't know that you needed to go on 4th and 2 in the second quarter, up 14-7. I can make a case that you lost this game 5 different times in 5 different ways. That's what SOL is. Those guys will tell you that's what SOL is, because they're all different and unique in their own way. There's no point in doing the 4th down thing. Dan Campbell's going to be Dan Campbell, right? Asking him not to be Dan Campbell is asking me not to wear a Lions shirt on this podcast, asking me not to watch the game. He is who he is. For us to ask him to not be himself isn't fair to him. And it's honestly it's stupid. It's stupid. I don't know if the Amani stuff is on Oruwariye, if it's on AG, if it's on the organization, because I myself, and I don't do that for a living, saw at least 3 stories in the preseason, specific stories that said the league has instructed officials to call illegal contact more. All 6 of he might have had 1 PI. I think it was 1 PI and 5 illegal contacts. He knows this. His coaches know this. Someone in the organization knows the refs have been instructed to call illegal contact more, stop grabbing people. And he just kept doing it. They had multiple opportunities to put this game at a place where it's an easy afternoon, right? There's the step on the neck mentality. We talked in the first 2 years of the podcast a lot. So for people who are new, if you've listened for a while, thank you. Please keep listening. But if you're new to it, there is a concept that a good friend of mine who happens to be a Packer fan has proposed often. And yeah, what up, Chris? Hope you're enjoying Australia. It called the trophy room mentality. He is a Packer fan. He lives in Metro Detroit. He goes to Lion games. And it started with, we were at a Lions game together. He was wearing a Packer jersey. The Lions won the game, for the record. They were winning. And Lions fans started giving him crap. And he says, hey, let me ask you a question. I like your stadium. I like this building. Where's the trophy room? And the guy's like, what? What are you talking? He says, where's the trophy room? And the guy looks at him, still not getting it. And he says, at Lambeau, they got a room where we keep all our Super Bowl trophies. Right? Then it clicks to the guy, and the guy looks at him like he wants to kill him. Right? It's a mentality, though. You step on their necks. Whatever overly violent term you feel comfortable using, maybe it's kneecaps. I don't know. But you were presented multiple opportunities to put this game in a different place, a place where the crowd's not a factor, a place where they have to play a certain way. They can no longer run the ball because they're too far behind. And you blew it multiple times. Multiple times you blew that. And that, I think, goes on to coaching. I think at 14-0, you had a chance to stomp on their neck. I think at 24-14, you had a chance to stomp on their neck. I don't know why you're in love with 4th down, but I have a thought about that, and I wonder what you guys think. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the Twitter page because I hope somebody gives me their thoughts, because this just came to me obviously in the last hour. My issue, I don't have as much issue with the 4th down thing. If you like going for it on 4th down, you think it sends a message to your defense that you trust them, or to your O-line that you believe in them, that's all well and good. I believe you have so many 4th down opportunities because, quite frankly, you suck on 3rd down. And I think you suck on 3rd down because you're often in 3rd and 6 or more, because you honestly suck on 2nd down. Today, I found myself hating, and this might be me being me, and if it is, I apologize, except I don't, because that's who I am. 2nd down play calling. I wish, I may look into it. Somebody does a breakdown of, they do 3rd down efficiency, and I guarantee you the Lions suck today on 3rd down. I don't know what the number is. I didn't look it up. I don't need to. I know they sucked on 3rd down today. That's why they had to go on 4th down so often. I would like to know what their 2nd down efficiency was, because I believe that is where the game was lost from a play calling standpoint. And I almost never, That's not true. I often blame play calling. No, I don't want to tell that lie. I think play calling is big. It's situational play calling. It's tempo. It is when you're on the road, taking momentum. It's all these things go into it. Dan Campbell is Dan Campbell. If he sees a 4th and 2, in his mind and in his heart, he believes they can get it. That's why he goes for it. He's not trying to be cute. He's not trying to prove anything. He believes they can get it. But if he's not calling the plays now, that 3rd and 1, to me, key play of the game. Key play of the game. 3rd and 1, you're up 24-14, 10 minutes left in the football game. Right. So you need a first down because you are also now in the process of killing the clock and you're running the ball well. Now someone could counter and say later they had a 4th and 1, didn't get it. Why do you think they were going to get it on 3rd and 1? I don't. I know that the smarter play call is a run with Jamal, a run with Craig Reynolds, because then if you don't get the 3rd and 1, you can go Dan Campbell and do a 4th and 1. You can't. There's so many different ways and people, right? I'm gonna give Amani the benefit of the doubt and say he just had a bad day at the office. There's occasionally been a bad day at the office for everybody. I've done a bad presentation or two. Sometimes it just happens. He had a really, really bad day. That guy was good last year. I'm not going to take one data point and say he sucks. That's what dumbass Dan does. That's what those guys who, the Twitters are coming. Okay. Yeah, I'm not. We might get to that in a minute. sorry. The Twitter pops are happening. But just to finish this thought, the overall thinking here is that everybody contributed. I think Dan Campbell went a little too far with some of the calls. I think Ben Johnson did not have a great day play calling, particularly 2nd down and a couple of key 3rd downs. I think Amani had a horrible day. I think the defensive ends in general, and I hope I'm using the right terminology, but I'm sure there's a guy who coached his son's little league team who's going to correct me. I think the term is crashing down, and it was creating these cutback lanes. But I'm not going to get all weedy. People will drop off and not care. Everybody contributed to this loss. It's a referendum loss. Something better change from this loss. This is the kind of loss that changes. I'm not saying Dan Campbell needs to take over play calling again, because I think in general, Ben Johnson's done a fine job. I didn't love some things today. I don't think that Amani needs to be taken out of the lineup. I don't know that that's the answer. I don't think that's the answer. I think there were some schematic things. There were some player things. There were some coaches' calls. And then there were some self-inflicted wounds. It was a group effort. Okay, enough of that. There were some good things, and I do need to talk about them because that is who I am, and that is why this podcast is called what it's called, because I'm not just going to come up here and be all dumbass Dan and say, oh, they suck, blah, 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 Fords, blah, blah, SOL. Don't do that. I like getting DJ Chark involved in the game early, Reynolds at key moments. I like seeing those two guys get more involved. It was starting to become a Amon-Ra St. Brown heavy passing attack. I like that Hockenson found the end zone. I think that's important. I think early, the defense made some plays, and it was important because it didn't allow the crowd to get in early. Crowd got in later. Here's a big thing, and I don't know where you are on this, right? I haven't given up on Jeff Okudah guy. Only 3 data points, but today Jeff Okudah spent most of the day covering arguably one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in all of football. And shut him down might be strong. Justin Jefferson was not a factor in this football game. I don't know that anybody can disagree with that. And if you don't think that Jeff Okudah is a big part of that, then I challenge you to go back to last week or see what Devontae Smith did in the Philly game. See what Terry McLaurin did last week. This is Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson in 3 straight weeks. I generally don't jump the gun, but I am now. I believe I have enough data to say, barring injury, Jeff Okudah is a good corner. Jeff Okudah will be, I didn't say he was great. I didn't say he's going to Pro Bowl Jeff Okudah is a good corner. We have a corner. Barring injury, the Jeff Okudah situation in my mind is settled. I'm not interested in having any more conversations about Jeff Okudah. He put one of the best receivers in the league on ice today. Next, I think that I'm getting to the point of having the same conversation about our quarterback. I don't want to hear about that last interception. That was him trying to make something happen. Jared Goff was not the reason they lost today. Jared Goff did a lot of really good things. We can nitpick. He missed Chark on a play that would have broke the game open. 24-14. If he gets Chark on that play, they might go up 31-14 and the game's different. That's one play. I'm not going to ignore the rest of his game. Jared Goff is playing really, really good football. He closed last year playing really, really good football. And they showed a stat at some point since last year, maybe 3 games left last year, 17 touchdowns, 3 picks. Jared Goff's playing really, really good football. And I mean, if you disagree with that, you're probably just a hater or whatever. I don't know. I don't think we have a quarterback issue. I think this guy's 28 years old. By all accounts, he's a good dude. And on top of those things, which do matter to me, they matter with number 9, they matter with me. He's playing really good football. Now, when he starts laying eggs or losing games for us, cool. I want you to show me the game he lost in the last 8 games, 5 games last year, 6 games last year, and the 3 this year. Point out to me where Jared Goff was one of the 3 reasons we lost. I don't even waste your time. You're not going to be able to find it because Jared Goff's playing really good football. I like that we have depth at running back. Swift obviously wasn't 100 today, and Jamal just stepped in. It was seamless. That will probably be important the rest of the year. I still see the defense playing well in spots and not in others. But when they had the 14-0 lead, Minnesota comes back. There was a version of the Lions that would have just rolled over and gotten blown out the rest of the way. I think that fumble was huge. I mean, the Lions didn't force it, but they recovered it. And then there were just some calls like, you got to make field goals. You got to make field goals. There were some good things. I still think the offensive line isn't healthy. We've never seen the real offensive line play together. Like Vaitai with Ragnow, Decker, everybody intact. I still like the offensive line. I think they can run well. So there were some things to like. It's not all, I mean, the way it ended, the way it fell apart, I like this. But there were some good things. So I am me and I'll be fine. It's just hour and a half after the game. So I'm not fine now, but I will be. I'm going to look at a couple of these because I know what they're doing. So I'm not going to waste your time with all the Twitter feeds, but there's a couple. One of them says, Dan Campbell lost the game. He's got to stop going for it on 4th down. I touched on that a little bit. I touched on it a little bit more. Statistically, there's a way you can look at it and just say, hey, statistically, he went 4 times early. He converted 3. And I think the 3 conversions, 2 of them were on the same drive, were a touchdown and a touchdown. It might have been a touchdown and missed field goal. But you can't look at it that way because the one hurt. Of those, the one they didn't get was a swing, 14-point swing. So minimum 10-point swing because Minnesota scored on a short field. You need to have supreme confidence in your defense to do that. And that's how he'll sell it, is that he does that because he has confidence in his defense. I think you have to be a little smarter. You can't do it every time. You can't. You have to be more calculated when you do that, right? The next one, this loss falls squarely on the shoulders of AG. The defense broke down in the second half, and AO should have been out of the game. Again, I touched on that. I can't argue that if they pull Amani in that game, I can't yell and scream. He was not playing well. He couldn't stop grabbing. And I don't know if that's a technique thing. I don't know if what you're taught is if you're going to get beat for a touchdown, grab the guy and take a 5-yard penalty, then it's a good play, right? I don't look at the all 22s, right? The film where you can see everything on the field. What it feels like is that something's going on with his technique or he's out of position and he's going to get beat. Adam Thielen had a solid day, would have had a better day. And if the choice is Thielen's about to blow by me, he's going to score a touchdown or grab him, then Amani had a great day. I'm being facetious. He did not have a great day. I don't know if you're the defensive coordinator, what it takes, what point do you get to when you say, okay, you got to get off the field? A, is your backup better? Then why is he your backup? If he's not better, you are not putting your team in a position to win the game. You are hurting your chances by putting in a less talented player. I don't know what to do with that one. I feel you. I hear what you're saying. I don't know what you do with that. When a guy just can't stop grabbing. So I think there's technique. I think there's something Amani's doing. I don't know if his confidence is down because he played really well most of last year. I do believe that someone should remind him that the officials are calling illegal contact at an alarming rate. And it's not unfair because they told you. They announced this in March. They reiterated in the preseason. We're putting a special emphasis on illegal contact. Anytime a guy's beyond 5 yards, you can't touch him. And everyone that I saw, Amani was guilty. I mean, guilty is a strong word. He committed that's guilty. Yeah, he committed the penalty. You can't do it. You can't do it. Now, like I said, you could sit in the film room and someone could say, look, if he doesn't grab him, that's a touchdown. What do you say to that? Okay, commit the penalty. Commit the penalty. The one drive was almost all Amani. I think there were 3 penalties and Minnesota scored a touchdown. It's probably tougher to pull a guy out of the game than we realize. But something has to happen there, right? Okay, last one. And there we go. And see, I don't even want to do it. This is an ownership. The Lions are the only team that lose this way, and it is because of the leadership at the top of the organization. I'm not even going to read the last line. You guys can probably guess what it says. Lions will never win until fill in your dumbass Dan statement. I don't even want to address that one. Players make plays. Players don't make plays. Coaches make calls. Coaches don't make calls. Sheila Hamp didn't miss either field goal. Sheila Hamp didn't miss any tackles. Sheila Hamp didn't call any of those 4th down plays. If this game causes you to lose faith in the coach or the individual players, and you don't have the ability to look at this from a wider lens, maybe right now you don't. By Tuesday or Wednesday, you should be able to look at this thing scope-wise and not like feel good. Oh, they played Minnesota close on the road. Nah, to hell with that. You got to win that game. I won't ever get there. So then, I mean, finally, how do you change it? So what do you do? What do you do? If you're a fan, you don't do anything. You stay pissed for a few minutes like I have. You do the podcast. You go have a beer or whatever your beverage of choice is. It'll be a 0 sugar soda for me. and you move on with your life. What do? They're going to use the word clean up. That's a new word. We got to clean up a lot of things. Yeah. Today was different than Philly. Philly, you played a better team. You played them close. Had you done a couple things, you could have won. Last week, you won the game, and you still didn't play well. They have not played a clean game yet. And that's why it's tough. I would like to sit here and tell you I know who they are. I know what they are, and I don't, because they have not played a clean game yet. So what do? You play better. Right now, you got to win your next 3 games. I don't do the call your shot thing. In general, you got to win the next 3 games. You definitely got to win Seattle, and then you got to beat New England and Dallas. Yep, I'm asking you to go under. I don't know where Dak's going to be. Dak might be back for that game. You got to win the next 3 games. To wash the stink of this Minnesota loss off of you, you've got to win the next 3 games. And if we're sitting here talking about a 4-2 team going into the bye, it's a good podcast. We like that, right? And you can. If you play to your capability, you can. If you stop beating yourself, if you stop getting too risky with the calls, if you make tackles, if you make field goals, if you don't grab receivers, if you put your foot on their neck when you have them, you can do it. Today, you pulled defeat from the jaws of victory. That's what you did. Because you were a better team and the game was there. Minnesota gave you multiple opportunities to go take that game and hide. You pulled defeat from the jaws of victory. Part personnel, part coaching, part scheme, part execution. Doesn't matter. But if you want to change the culture, you want to change the narrative, you want to change the national, local, fans, media, anybody's perception of the Detroit Lions, you cannot lose that game. You did not do yourself any service today. Because behind that, it's going to get worse. And people are going to say it. And like I said, every dumbass Dan is calling the radio station tomorrow. and they're going to tell their favorite guy how great he is on the radio. And then they're going to say the same shit they've been saying for years. And they're not wrong. Not as we sit here today. They're not wrong. I won't listen to it. I don't. At the end of the day, you have control of it. So I don't know what the post game was like. I didn't listen to any post game. I didn't want to listen to any post game. But if you want to change the culture, if you want to stop people from saying stuff like SOL, can't do this. Because as he said to Martin Lawrence and Bad Boys, that's that bullshit right there. That game. That's the game that guys will point to when they're talking about this. That's the game they will hold up. So it's simple. Seattle, you got to win that game. My feeling is you need to win that game soundly. And then they're going to say you were supposed to win that game. You should be favored. I believe the game's at home. You better win next week. You don't win next week, we got a whole different conversation. You got to play better, not beat yourself, keep it simple, make it ugly, whatever. Just go win the damn game. But now you just gave one away. This league, you don't get to give them away. I don't think I predicted you to win this game. I think I had you winning 9 games, maybe 10. I don't think this was one. You were literally still on schedule to get to the 9 wins I predicted. Problem is, you should have won today. I can't ignore that. And not only did you lose, you lost in the worst fashion ever. You lost in a way that emboldens all your critics to say you are who we thought they were. They're going to go Denny Green on you. That's the frustrating part, is how. If the Vikings would have came out hot, Dalvin runs all over you, Jefferson catches 4 touchdowns, and you get blown out, I don't love that podcast, but I would have done it. I would have been honest about it. I would have said they lost on the road to a better team. They're not better. They weren't better than you. They weren't better than you today. I don't know if they're better than you, full stop. And you were in a position to win the game multiple times, and you gave it back. They tried to give it to you. You gave it back. They gave it to you again. You gave it back. So just go beat Seattle. Let me do a simple, uneventful podcast next week. Go beat Seattle. But you hurt yourself today. You got nobody to blame today but you. So there's not much more to it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I apologize. We will fix the technical difficulties one way or another. We're hoping to be much more positive next week after a win. If you like us, if you enjoy it, find a way to tell us. Facebook, Twitter. You can watch this thing on the YouTube channel if you want. We still enjoy doing it, despite what it sounded like for the last half hour. We still like it. Still our team. We're not going anywhere. But it's tough. That's a tough one today. So thanks for listening. Again, shout out as always to the super producer extraordinaire, Mike Ward. We hope everybody has a good weekend and the rest of your weekend. And let's get over this one and just on to Minnesota and do another one. All right. Have a good one.